Now, Holly Williams on assignment for 60 Minutes.
When America went to war with Iran last month, the US military faced an enemy using mass-produced drones to deadly effect. The same weapons have been used for years in Ukraine, some of them supplied by Iran to Russia. Unmanned and remotely controlled, drones have transformed the Ukrainian battlefield. They're estimated to inflict around 80% of combat casualties on both sides. The technology is nothing short of revolutionary, and it's evolving rapidly. As we discovered, to adapt to the new era, the US military is learning lessons from Ukraine. Forget everything you think you know about warfare. The traditional front line in Ukraine has expanded to a roughly 10-mile wide strip called the kill zone. Anyone who sets foot there can be spotted by a drone operator and hunted down. This was a narrow escape for some Ukrainian soldiers. They call these Frankenstein tanks, retrofitted with cages and mesh to deflect drone strikes. Netting covers roads close to the front, designed to catch them before they hit their target. To evade interference from electronic jammers, both militaries launch drones attached to miles-long spools of fibre optic wire, leaving behind a digital spider's web. But the drones are not just in the air.
Continuously innovating.
Yes, for sure.
Beside a frozen lake, Ukraine's security service took us to see one of their most treasured weapons.
I mean, it looks a bit like a fishing boat, Scout. That's an outboard motor.
Yeah.
It's a sea drone, developed in Ukraine, called Sea Baby. We're protecting this operator's identity because he's a target for Russian assassination.
What's the payload on this?
It can really take 2,000 kilograms.
2,000 kilos of explosives. Is that enough to take out a Russian warship?
Yes.
Produced for around $300,000, Ukrainian sea drones have destroyed warships that cost tens of millions. Ukraine says it's used them to sink or disable 11 Russian vessels.
Which one is more useful, a warship or a sea drone like the Sea Baby?
Sea drone, I think it's really hard to destroy these drones because they are smaller. That's why to have like 10 ships like this is much better than having one big one.
Wow. To be clear, you're saying you'd rather have 10 sea drones than a warship?
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Alexander Commission started out the war as the CEO of Ukraine's railways. He was so good at his job, helping millions of Ukrainians to evacuate, that President Volodymyr Zelensky recruited him to become the architect of Ukraine's drone program.
Cheap, fast, efficient.
Commission told us he helped boost Ukraine's production from 2,000 drones a year to 4 million. For the outnumbered Ukrainians, the inexpensive new technology has allowed them to level the battlefield.
It's a data-driven war. We speak numbers. It's a numbers game.
What do you mean by a numbers game?
We have to count everything. We have to count number of drones we use, efficiency of each of them, cost to kill for every Russian.
And what is the cost of killing every Russian?
You would be surprised, but the cost of killing every Russian is less than $1,000 now. That's why they send so many people to die on the front line. They don't count them. They don't value them.
Would you want to be in Vladimir Putin's shoes right now?
No. Strategically, he lost. He wanted us to become weaker, became much stronger.
10 retired US generals told us they agree that Russia isn't winning the war, despite its territorial gains. Some caution that Ukraine isn't winning either. but with the help of drones, has managed to draw Russia into a stalemate.
This is like a kind of obstacle course for drones.
Ukraine's military has set up drone training academies to teach the new technology.
Patience and practice.
Yes. I mean, practice makes perfect. Am I right?
And the rapid shifts in tactics that come with it. This ground drone, mounted with a .50 caliber machine gun, recently held off a Russian attack single-handedly for 45 days straight. In January, 3 Russian soldiers surrendered to a similar robotic drone.
Our main idea, we can send the robot and to not risk with a human life. So for us, it's a human life is most important.
Ukraine says it makes more than 95% of its own military drones, harnessing talent from some unusual places. Roman Tkachenko is a former brewery engineer who founded a company called Tencor and developed these remote-controlled armoured evacuation drones to transport wounded soldiers. They gave us a demonstration at a military training ground and claim the drones have saved hundreds of lives.
How do you figure out what your next design needs to be?
We are working with the end users.
End users, that means the soldiers who are on the front line.
Yeah.
The soldiers said, we need a drone to do evacuations, and you built it.
Yep. That's how it works in Ukraine. We are designing for soldiers.
The same drone base can be adapted to mount a 40mm grenade launcher, controlled from a bunker which could be hundreds of miles away.
When it comes to drones, how quickly is the technology changing?
Innovation cycle is roughly 1 week. It means from the point you send a drone to the front line, get the feedback, change something, and get the new version, it could be as short as 1 week.
Are the Russians also innovating?
Yes, definitely. We have to admit it.
Who has the edge?
At this point, I would say that's equilibrium.
Equilibrium in a drone arms race, and both sides will take any help they can get. Air Logics makes aerial surveillance drones for the Ukrainian military. Their production spread across more than 20 sites to minimise risk, because they've already been bombed twice by Russia. It's a dangerous business, but the company recently secured over $1 million from an American investment fund that specialises in Ukrainian drone technology. It's run by 2 former US Marines, William McNulty, who has a background in humanitarian work, and Lenore Carafa, who built a career in finance after leaving the military. They told us their investors are wealthy individuals who support Ukraine.
I worked at 1 or 2 jobs after the military that were more about the money than anything else. That is not my main motivation.
You didn't join the Marines for the money?
What's your main motivation?
Service, patriotism, democracy, mission.
And Ukraine ticks all of those boxes.
It ticks all of those boxes.
I fell in love with the Ukrainians when I arrived. How could you not? And how could you not just come to help the people that are literally fighting for what NATO was created for? To stop Russian aggression.
At a NATO training exercise in Estonia last year, the alliance tested its vulnerability against drones. Around 1,000 NATO personnel were defeated in the drill by a group of drone operators, some of them Ukrainian.
Is this a revolution in warfare?
It is.
No question in your mind?
No question. You know, in every war, like, there is innovation, from going from horses to tanks to machine guns, and then tactics evolve in response to that. And that is why it's just incredibly important for the US, for our European allies, to learn these lessons from Ukraine.
There's a real risk that the US would lose its military supremacy if it doesn't adapt to modern conditions on the battlefield. We're going to be going up against these same unmanned systems that Russia is using against Ukraine.
The US military told us it intends to hang on to its supremacy. Not by buying, stockpiling or replicating Ukraine's drones, but by tapping into the same passion for innovation the Ukrainians have. at the Wiesbaden garrison in Germany.
Cable channels you run through, keep everything nice and flush.
The Forge is one of dozens of drone innovation labs set up by the US military around the world.
Props are good.
Any service member with an idea or just an interest can request to spend time in one of the labs.
The legs slide out and you just add a spacer.
It's adding a culture of innovation, and that's new. That's not something that we've really seen in the last 20 years.
Is it possible that a soldier will walk into one of those innovation labs with an idea that could be a breakthrough in drone technology?
It's entirely possible. The thing with drones and innovation is what I would describe as unlimited innovation potential. If you can think of it, you can make a drone do it. Expedited basic training.
Captain Ronan Sefton was first deployed to Germany with the Army's 2nd Cavalry Regiment, not long after Russia launched its invasion in 2022. His job was to give basic training to over 8,000 Ukrainian soldiers. But he told us almost immediately the Americans began learning from the Ukrainians.
The first really poignant lesson for us was there needs to be more drones. They need to be everywhere, involved in the training to add to the realism.
So the Ukrainian soldiers were giving that to you as feedback?
Absolutely.
Did you then talk to your commanding officers about it?
We went to every senior commander we could. The thing that we wanted to communicate was, this is important, it's changing warfare, and here's how we can actually implement it now. We're already doing it, we should scale this.
The message got through, and now Sefton's joined the Army's Ukraine Lessons Learned Task Force. It has the job of translating experience from Ukraine's scrappy fighting force to America's sprawling military. He told us the new technology does not make the US military's traditional firepower obsolete, but it needs to adapt urgently, countering the drones developed by America's adversaries.
You still need howitzers, you still need Abrams, but you have to figure out how to get the drones to work with the howitzers and Abrams.
Exactly, and that's the challenge, but also the goal, to become ready for the next conflict. We see it with the armed forces of Ukraine. They have learned these lessons through blood. There will, of course, be additional lessons that we will learn, perhaps through blood, but it will only make us better at what we already are.
The day after that interview, the United States went to war. And the Iranian drones began flying. The first Americans killed in the conflict were targeted with a drone. The US military is now learning its lessons in blood, just as Ukraine did.
The next breakthrough in battlefield drones?
Drones working together like a swarm of bees.
Exactly.
Pretty scary.
It is scary, absolutely.
At 60minutesovertime.com.